Hello there. The left is turning violent in France as the voters reject them and their woke policies. But we in the UK have a far more dangerous situation developing. So the real truth is coming out. The mythical, so-called far right is not the problem. No, it is the very real hard left that presents the rest of us with an imminent violent problem. And that is playing out in France right now, with Paris authorities saying that there have been numerous attempts at damage and at least one arrest. And the protesters tried to use the resurgence of the right within the democratic system to justify this. But the French people were asked to vote in the EU elections, which they did. But the answer the electorate gave was not to the liking of the hard left. And now we see large protests that include violence taking place. And that violence is not coming from the right. It is coming from those who want to impose their will on the majority by whatever means are available. Losers' consent is not in their lexicon. If they are happy to start with violence in the run-up to the snap French general election in a couple of weeks' time, what do you think they will feel justified in doing should Marine Le Pen's national rally win the day? And the protesters come equipped with masks and umbrellas to protect themselves from pepper sprays and tear gas and the like, as well as the obligatory graffiti equipment, of course. That the police were forced to deploy tear gas tells you all you need to know about these lefty protesters and their intent. The left does not take to electoral defeat kindly, and they are vicious and vindictive in their pursuit of their aims. Now, just as an addition, there is talk from the US that this sort of thing will kick off should Donald Trump win there in November. But the ordinary people will have to respond to all of this by not being intimidated, by not rising to the bait, and peacefully casting their ballots. And the more of the ordinary people that turn out to make their voice heard, the harder it will be for leftists to claim that they have some sort of moral mandate to cause destruction and injury. These lefty woke protesters have made it quite plain that they want France to open its borders to all, something that would allow the entry of external conflict. But it's worse. Now, you will have heard of people claiming they identify as African American, for example, something designed to pull nation-state identities apart. Well, here's what Jean-Luc Mélenchon, the leader of the woke leftist LFI party in France, said.
Quand moi je suis né, on avait un Français sur 10 qui avait un grand-parent étranger. Dorénavant, c'est 1 sur 4. Par conséquent, ceux qui s'appellent Français de souche posent un problème sérieux à la cohésion de la société.
So over the last few decades, France has gone from 10% of its citizens having a foreign grandfather to 25%. And it's the 75% of those who do not have a foreign grandfather that are the problem. Yeah, okay. So African French, for example, would be good. But French, or worse, just French, would be considered as some sort of crime against humanity. This is the language of the left. This is the language of national destruction, the language of the eradication of national identity and culture. Coming to a UK town near you soon. How long before calling yourself British without a qualifying prefix is considered as racist? Oh yes, it's coming. And don't even think about identifying yourself as English. The trouble for the left, though, is that the people are no longer listening. The people have woken up to the inaptly named woke culture of the left. Right now the wokists are claiming that it is a British or French or whatever thing to have open borders. But open borders will mean the erosion of what it means to be British or French. They are attempting to gaslight us. But the EU has a bit of a problem. Would the election of the National Rally, with Jordan Bardella as PM and Le Pen as President, mean that France, like Hungary, would end up defying EU rule of law requirements? More stresses and strains on the fabric of the European Union. And now comes the difficult bit for the UK. If the polls are to be believed, the UK is sleepwalking into a socialist administration under Keir Starmer's Labour Party, an administration with a huge majority. And if Starmer can't keep his veneer of being a centrist in place, then it will become a hard-left socialist administration, a communist setup, where personal property and wealth are considered a moral crime. The trouble for Labour is that the UK citizenry is also waking up to the dangers of woke socialism, but somehow not fully realising that the Labour Party is part of the problem, or not realising fast enough. Let's hope swathes of more voters realise the dangers of Labour before polling day. But if the voters do give Keir Starmer a huge majority and therefore a huge mandate to impose an almost one-party socialism upon us, we face torrid times. What will happen when the people see their taxes go up and prices go up because companies have to charge more for the increased taxes and minimum pay that they have to fork out for? But the people then see all the extra tax money being spent on more hotels to take in more newcomers, as well as pay for more people to unproductively stay at home, with a fair proportion of the money going into rebuilding Gaza and a new Palestinian state formed through terrorist activity. How long before the first Hamas refugees are allowed into the UK to join the ranks of the weekend London marches, while Starmer and Rayner use their huge majority to justify putting in place more laws and security services to protect their new democracy? Something that means protecting themselves and their supporters against the ordinary voters who suddenly realise what Labour is up to. New anti-free speech blasphemy laws and the like, and even more barriers across Westminster to protect themselves from the far right, while they appease their preferred demographic all the way down the line. We will soon become very aware of the fact that for most socialists, those that work productively are there purely to provide the labour and money for them to create a new communist state to enslave us all. A state where individuality and personal empowerment and betterment are to be stifled, while more and more of public sector work time is taken up with woke box-ticking courses and seminars, which are, of course, far more important than any form of productive service to you and me. And there are already signs that Labour will be looking to private sector employers to reject the notion of profit and become the social services for the employed. The new mantra will be, the employee is always right. How long before employers start pulling in their horns and cutting right back on recruitment? There will be no economic recovery. I give Labour 6 months at most before the people are thoroughly fed up with them. And if they use their mandate to use the state to enforce their rule and are not buried as a political movement within 2 years, then who knows what will happen. Brexit was the start of the UK fight back against the woke establishment. The job has not yet been finished.